What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Buck with you. And Buck, I don't think we should waste much time here. I think we should get to our guest we got today.
Yeah, Luke Keuchly, one of the best players that I have ever seen in terms of scouting, and then watch him take what we saw him do in college and translate it to tremendous success as a pro. Now doing all things with the Carolina Panthers and helping out the little fellas. Him, Greg Olsen, Jonathan Stewart, and some other guys have a little middle school team that they have rolling. I love checking them out on YouTube.
Todd Blackledge as well. We're gonna get into that a little bit about his youth coaching, as well as what his take is on some of these quarterbacks that have turned things around, environments, good defensive schemes. It's a long ranging conversation that I think you're really going to enjoy. Here's our chat with the great Luke Keuchly. All right, Buck, pumped to have Luke back with us. Luke, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's I'm looking out my window right now and the leaves are changing. It's getting cooler. It's a little brisk in the morning. And this is always my favorite time of the year playing, because stuff starts to really matter now. Trade deadline's gone and you start playing meaningful games in November, December. And we played in Green Bay, obviously, this past weekend. And it was the most perfect day in Green Bay. Chilly, a little breezy. I love that field that they have. And our boys came out with the win. So that the air and the atmosphere and the cool weather and playing on grass, and that's this time of the year is what I think about playing football. So it was this is my favorite time of the season.
Real quick, were you no sleeves no matter what?
See, I was, but I didn't like wearing sleeves in games. I always felt like I was constricted.
Okay.
Constricted running. Did
you ever regret it though? Like that, like it was just so stinking cold that you're like, maybe this is a bad call.
Sweatshirt up, sweatpants at practice. I was no skin showing. But what people don't get is you get on the field and you're only on the field for a couple minutes at a time. And then once you go to the sideline, the benches are heated. I can put a jacket on. I can put a hat on. There's heaters everywhere. And then you get on the field for, a couple minutes, and then you're back off. So it's really not that bad.
Buck, you wore sleeves. I'll bet you money you wore sleeves.
Yeah, but when you touch the ball, you can't wear them. So, like, I played on teams where it was a rule if you're touching the ball. So I was returning kicks. So you only could have, like, the mock neck and maybe, like, it would stop.
Half sleeve.
Yeah, half sleeve. But you couldn't wear the whole thing because you can't feel the ball. And so it'd get slick and it'll pop out or whatever. Not fun. But I was listening to Luke talking about, we're about to play meaningful games, but I heard you before you came on. Look, and I got to admit, one of my guilty pleasures is following you, Greg, and Jonathan Stewart on this Youth Inc. thing where y'all are getting the middle school team. So I'm not hearing you talk about not playing meaningful games, because the way that you guys were pouring in to finish the season, I think you played some meaningful games before we got to this point.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is the fourth year we've coached. And so Greg's dad coached high school football in Jersey forever. And he coached Greg's older brother, Chris, and his younger brother, Kevin, and then obviously Greg. So that's been in their blood forever. And then Tate's Greg's oldest son. When Tate was ready to start playing football, Pop Warner, Greg's like, hey, do you want to coach? Greg and I were both done playing, obviously, and said, yeah, absolutely. He got Greg's dad. So Greg and his dad handle the offense, and then Greg and I kind of tag team the defense. And everyone always says, hey, it's so nice that you coach these kids. And we tell everybody, like, no, thank you for letting us coach your kids, because it gives us an excuse to hang out. It gives us an excuse to go talk football. It gives us an excuse to be back out on the grass and have our game day. And now we have Jonathan Stewart coaches with us, and awesome. And then Todd Blackledge coached with us the last 2 years. It's just, we have a ton of fun doing it. We have great kids. And yeah, absolutely. Every game for us is like the Super Bowl. We spend probably way too much time breaking tape down, trying to figure out, hey, is our defense good? What happens if our defense that we put in isn't good? What's our fallback plan? Where do we need to put guys so they can have success and they're maximizing their skill set? It's so much fun. But the funniest thing about it was, when I was playing, you always hated when coaches had too much in or were trying to overcoach or do too much. And you just wanted to be like, hey, let us just play 4 or 5 defenses, give us 3 or 4 pressures, and like, let us go. And then now coaching these kids, you're like, what if? And you can tell sometimes the kids, or you can see it on their faces. And I know that exact look. And I'm like, all right, like, maybe I need to take a step back, our kids are good. They have a ton of confidence. Like, let them go play fast, let them go play fun, and encourage them, and they'll be just fine.
I want to ask you this because you said that you guys have done this now for several years, and think about like your college years. And at that age, you'd go home for a little bit of the summer and come back, and maybe a teammate would put on like 8 pounds, or you make these little incremental growth steps as at the college age. And in the NFL, it's probably even smaller steps that you can take. But when you're coaching kids this age, like there's got to be a kid that you finish the season thinking this kid's got no shot, and the next year he comes out and he's 4 inches taller. He's now got facial hair, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is a different human being. And then some other kids kind of plateau. That's got to be wild to watch that transformation over those years.
Oh yeah. And some of the kids we've had for 4 years, DJ, I was telling you this, and we had a kid that played corner for us the first 3 years we had him. And he was tough. He was physical. He wanted contact. He was all about it, but he hadn't grown yet. And I always wanted to move him inside to play backer, but it just didn't work. And then last season at the end of the year, he started to kind of grow a little bit, and we're like, hey, we need to move him. We need to think about moving him in to play backer this year. And then he showed up this offseason. We see the kids all year, but they still grow quite a bit. He showed up this offseason in our little offseason program in whatever was June or whatever. And I was like, whoa, like, I want that kid. He's not playing corner. He's coming to play backer with me, and we're going to let this kid just go hunt. So it's fun because you don't know where are they going to grow? What are they going to turn into? Is he maxed out with where he is? If that's where he's going to be, we need to try to coach him at that position to put him in position to be successful in high school, So, but yeah, this kid, his name's JJ. JJ has been one of my little dudes for 4 years, and he's been tough. He's been physical, and then he grew this year, and he was a monster playing inside for us.
It's so great. It's so great.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Now back to your Panthers, because I saw you guys week 1, and to see the team now play the way that they're playing, and I always believe that franchises have a blueprint for being able to win. When I was back there working in the early 2000s, it was run the ball, play defense. Dan Morgan was the centerpiece of that defense with Pep and those other guys. I see when you and Thomas Davis are playing, it's kind of like the same thing. It looks like I turn back the clock and it's the early 2000s again, watching this team run the ball with Rico Dowdle, the way they're playing on defense. Just talk about their style.
Yeah, I think for us, we've leaned on the run game. The run game has been really good for us. I think it'd be tough to talk about a run game and not talk about the offensive line coaches. Joe Gilbert and Harold Goodwin have been phenomenal. We started our offseason with Ike Ekwonu playing left guard, Robert Hunt playing left tackle Ike, and then Robert Hunt left guard. And then we had Austin Corbett at center, and then Damian Lewis, and then Taylor Moden. And the amount of combinations that we've had at that position this year and had no drop off whatsoever has been phenomenal. And I think Dave Canales has a really good feel for what our team is good at, what allows us to win. He has zero ego, which is just in this day and age is sometimes hard. But he said, hey, you know what? I want to do everything we can to put our team in position to have success. So I think our blueprint is, hey, let's play tough on defense. Let's have the ability to run the football. Let's throw some play action. Let's tighten up in the red zone. I don't care if they drive big field. Can we tighten up in the red zone and either force turnovers or have them kick field goals? And that's kind of been our successful formula this year is control the run game, not turn the ball over, tighten up in the red zone, and play tough D and keep ourselves in the game so we can lean on that run game throughout the whole game.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'll be honest with you. When I watched the game last week, because I hadn't watched much of them, and I'm watching it, and I had to pull up our lads because I'm like, who the heck are all these guys? Like Yash and Nyman. I didn't even really, he was in there filling in and doing his thing. But watching this tape and watching them, we've talked a lot about this year is kind of this theory that we've been kind of hitting, and I want to get your thoughts on it, Luke. Is that we talk about like a culture of a team when your little guys are physical, like in other words, when your receivers and your corners play physical, and when your big guys chase and run, and you see offensive linemen working to finish, you see defensive linemen chasing plays, just speaks kind of like a competitive culture that you've cultivated there, and it seems like Carolina definitely has that.
Well, I think you talk about big guys running. I think the one guy that we've been so happy to have back has been Derek Brown. He's a monster. He can play every play. But the one thing that I think you look for, especially in a young defense, is what's the identity of what we want to do. So Derek is that guy. JC Horn's one of those guys, and we've got more dudes that are that type of guy. But when you watch Derek Brown play, he takes on double teams. He's physical at the point of attack. He throws guys on the ground. He doesn't get moved. He's a great interior pass rusher, but he runs from sideline to sideline. I can't tell you how many times he's been in the stack inside, getting blocked. They throw a swing pass, and 95 is running full speed at 340 pounds and knocking dudes out on the sideline. And I think as a young guy, when you come in, or some of these free agents that we brought in, you look to what's acceptable on our team. And that's kind of where people start. And when you watch Derek Brown play, say, hey, I don't know where I came from, but hey, when you come to Carolina, this is how we're going to play defensive line. And Todd Wash, the D-line coach there, has been phenomenal. I think Derek Brown would say the same thing. But Derek epitomizes what we want to be on defense. And the whole defense revolves around him and plays physical and plays with great effort. And he's been great to have back, not only as a player on the field, but you need that presence. You need that dog. You need that alpha that people just look at and say, hey, if I'm going to play defense for the Carolina Panthers, I need to be a lot like him.
You know, it's funny, Luke, you talked about that. And you guys had great cultures when you were there. Talk about the peer pressure to get everyone to play and perform at that standard. Because you can talk about, hey, look to Derek Brown, but there's also this quiet, unspoken standard that you must play with if you're going to play with us. If you're going to be one of the 11 on the field, you got to know how we get down. How do you go about building that out? Is that a coach-led thing? Or is that a player-led thing?
I think it's both. I think the players have to believe it in their heart. Like Derek Brown. Derek Brown needs to go be Derek Brown, but he also needs to be backed up by the coaches. If Derek sees something that he believes is an issue and he makes a comment about it, he's got to have the backing of the coaches, or at least be able to have a conversation with the coaches where, hey, we're on the same page. I understand what you're saying, Derek. This is what we see, but at the same time, we're moving in the right direction. So I think it's both player-led and coach-led. And all of our guys do that. I think there was a play on Sunday. So JC playing corner doesn't get any action, right? He sits there. He guards the boundary portion of the field. No one throws at him. And they threw a little glance route in the end zone, the Romeo Dobbs against Green Bay. And it was probably one of the only routes JC had all day. In great spot, eyes in the right place, converted, knocked the ball down. If the ball was thrown in the right spot, it was probably an interception. So we have it at all levels of the defense. And what I'm getting at with JC is you have to stay mentally engaged all game at that corner spot, because your job is boring until it's not. So JC gets those reps at practice. He takes them seriously. He goes through his progression each play during the game. And then when that moment, that opportunity pops up, he's there to capitalize. So I think as a young guy, when you come in and you look at this defense, whether it's Derek Brown and you're in the mix every play, or you're JC Horn and you're playing off and you're not getting any action, when your number gets called, you're expected to go make a play on the football. And I think it's player-led, it's coach-led, but it's also Dan Morgan and Brant Hillis. What kind of guys do you bring into this team? Are they willing to play physical? Are they willing to play the brand of football that you're going to play? Are they willing to kind of not conform, but fit into what you want to do as far as culture and scheme and how we do things? And I think it's all three of those things get put together. The players, the coaches, but the GM and the front office have to do a good job of bringing the right type of guy in that allows him to mix in with the guys that we already have.
Yeah, I think that's a great challenge, is trying to identify those guys. And how do you go about doing that? We've talked a lot about, the right questions when you get to know players, like what's a good question to elicit a good answer. And I was talking to one of our buddies of the show, Ken Coleman's written a bunch of leadership books, and I ran into him in Nashville, and I said, hey, I'm always looking for new questions. Like, give me a question you can ask a player, you can learn something interesting about him. And he said, ask him what pisses him off. And I was like, okay, I've never asked that. So I'm going to let you be the first person. As a player, Luke, what pissed you off?
Effort and lack of attention to detail, and not thinking that details are important. And you saw that a lot in the run game. Hey, where are your eyes? Where are you closing to? Are you the end man on the line of scrimmage? Make sure we squeeze all the way to the hip of that end man on the line because you're the edge player. Your inside foot has to be up because if your outside foot's up, you're closed making a play, going away from the line of scrimmage. All these little things that seem dumb. Where my pad level is as a linebacker when I'm taking on a guard. Where are my hands? Where are my feet? Where are my eyes? How much of this offensive alignment am I taking on? All of that stuff is so easy to do in practice, especially in walkthroughs. Let's not make it close, because when you go into a game, you're going to fall back to however you practice. And these little small details have a huge role in whether you have success or whether you fail inside games. So I think, to me, lack of detail and lack of urgency in walkthrough periods was a big deal for me.
That's great.
I mean, I can see it because I'm right there. I can feel the intensity, how he would be annoyed.
Yeah, to me, it's not hard.
Yeah, we can all do that.
It's easy.
I can feel it. Yeah, I can feel that.
And it shows. The other thing too, it shows is in walkthrough specifically, like it shows how important this is to you. The way you go through walkthrough, the way you have your pad level, your pad, where my hands are, where my feet are, where my eyes are, the urgency at which you put your hands on somebody in walkthrough. All that says to me is, hey, number one, do I know what I'm doing? And then number two, how important is it to me, and how important it is to you shows how important you feel like our job of playing defense is to the rest of your team.
That's great.
Like Luke, it appears that, I mean, you're there watching. We're in the midst of a renaissance when it comes to the running game and those things. So that means defensively, it's appeared that there was a 2 or 3 year period where we were talking about, hey, we'll let the opponent run. We're going to take away the explosives and the deep ball. Are we at a time there where we may need to go back to our old school defensive philosophies and making sure we shut down the run before we prioritize the other parts of playing great defense?
I think the run game, it depends on who you talk to about the run game. I think the run game is super important at the end of the game when you're trying to milk clock, you're trying to run a clock out. And then in specific situations, when you need to run the ball and they know you need to run the ball. I think that's when it's important, but I still think the passing game and the explosive nature of downfield throws is what's going to control the NFL still. I think running is important. We've had a lot of success running the football, but I think big plays allow you to score points quickly, which ultimately I think leads to the most success.
I've never asked you this before, but in baseball, we used to have player managers. And then in the NBA, you had Bill Russell, who was playing and then managing. I'm not saying could a player be a head coach in the NFL. I don't think that's possible. But if you've got someone, and I'm just talking about someone with your background, experience, intellect, where you got to at the peak of your powers, do you think you could have called the defense at that point in time?
Absolutely.
Why?
I think that there's way too much going on as a player that you're worrying about, that you don't get overall like trends in the game, who's in, who's out. There's too much information. Is it 11 personnel, and not all 11 personnel is the same, right? Like last week when we played Green Bay, is it 12 personnel and Tucker Kraft's in the game, or is it 12 personnel with 2 big tight ends? Is it 21 run game? Is it 2 fullbacks, or is it 2 running backs? And then right after the play, you got to think about all that stuff. I think there's way too much going on in the game. Maybe some guys can. I certainly couldn't. Think about it. You play a snap, you get up off the ground. You're trying to figure out, I'm looking at the Jumbotron, usually trying to figure out, hey, what happened the previous play in the run game? Where'd that ball hit? All right, hey, maybe I need to be a little bit more shifted over on that guard in the B gap. And you don't have time to think about like, all right, it's 3rd and 7. Hey, they're bringing in, 11 personnel, and their 11 personnel has, like we were playing the Saints. Was it Mark Ingram or was it Darren Sproles? All right, boom. All right, now it's 11 personnel with these guys. There's too much going on.
How many people, for those that don't know, how many people, like headset-wise, you don't get to hear them, but how many people were involved in that process in terms of identifying the personnel that was on the field? And I'm sure you have somebody who knows tendencies based off the numbers they have in front of them. Like, how many people are collaborating before that call gets into your headset?
I mean, you got guys up in the booth that can see everything super easily, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how we started in Carolina. McDermott was in the booth. So he had his crew up there that could see it. So they probably relayed to McD, hey, this is a personnel. McDermott makes the call down to the field to Al Holcomb. Al Holcomb gives me the call in my headset. That was kind of our our process, I believe. And I think that allows everybody to do their specific job, right? McDermott, when he was calling defenses for us, he's up there, he's looking at situation, feel, down and distance. Then he gets the play, then he gets the personnel grouping. All right, boom, out of this personnel grouping, this is what we like. All right, we like this. Let me give it to Al. Al gives it to me.
Yeah, that's the flow.
And it all happens. I mean, it's a 40-second, you guys know, 40-second play clock cut shuts off, or my headset shuts off at 15. So that stuff all happens in like 10 seconds.
It's wild.
I tend to disagree that he couldn't call it because Gunther Cunningham, when I was in Kansas City, he was the defense coordinator. Donnie Edwards was the Mike linebacker. In practice, we would situationally say, Donnie, you have to call it because if the headphones go down, if anything goes down, I need you to think about the game the way that I think about it. And so we would go these 2-minute drives in game where Donnie's calling the defense because we can't get everything communicated.
Yeah.
So I still believe that there's ways to have AFC automatic front coverages, things that you can call, things that you can get us to based on, one, how you and Thomas Davis work together. That I know that y'all can have a yin and a yang to kind of get it figured out. I do wonder, though, do you feel like the players should be empowered sometimes to override some of the calls that come in from the sideline based on what they feel, what they see?
Absolutely. And McDermott gave that to us all the time. I'd always watch tape with him on Saturday nights before games and with those guys. And I just be like, hey, I want to know what you're thinking, why you're thinking. So like, let's just run through a game real quick and call stuff and let me know kind of why you're thinking. So I agree with you on that. And then in games, kind of you guys asked me that question. I'm thinking about it a little bit more. I always wanted to go, I had like a checklist in my mind of like, all right, hey, it's 3rd and 7, the ball's on the right hash. Here's their top concepts out of their 3rd and 7 window that we've seen. All right, let me think of where I'm going to be. And then I get a play call. And then how does that play call match up with what I've been going through? So that was kind of my process. But then Sean McDermott always gave us a really good, great flexibility to change stuff. So say we were bringing pressure, Thomas was pressuring and they saw the pressure and they were able to slide protection pre-snap and they're going to have it blocked up. It's 7-man protection on 3rd down. We don't want to deal with that. McDermott would say, hey, look, if you guys see something and you don't like it, here's your 3 calls that you guys can get to. And it's on you guys to make sure that it gets communicated across the board. So there, we did have some creativity within our defense. If we got into a situation and we really didn't like it, we had the ability to change stuff. But I think for the most part, I trusted, McD and Steve Wilkes and Eric Washington. Those are the coordinators in Carolina to put a call to put us in a position to be successful.
I don't know that this conversation's ever been had before. That's why I think it's fascinating.
I think for me, I would have loved to have been like, hey, I want to play quarters right here. I want to blitz right here. But I think you could do it for maybe, a couple plays throughout the game, but I think it would have been too mentally draining for me to do the whole game because think about it. You're in the 3rd quarter. Hey, this is the situation. This is where they are on the field. We've seen this, and this. What are the top concepts out of 12 personnel that I've seen? Like I think there had been too much going on. I think it would have slowed my on-field processing to have to add one more thing.
Yeah, that's interesting though, man. Just think about all that goes into just one play call and the execution of it. One of the things that's been a theme a little bit, really not just this year, but the last few years, we've seen, and guys that were in Carolina, we saw Sam and Baker go on, have success elsewhere. This year, Daniel Jones has kind of become that guy. Were there times when you were playing where you were getting ready for a team and you might be with the staff in those meetings going like, okay, look, this quarterback's talented or this quarterback's got some ability, but he has no chance based on maybe it's the system he's in, whether it's the supporting cast that he has. But I mean, did you see that? Do you remember having those moments of being able to separate the player from the environment and saying, this guy, I don't care how good he is, he doesn't really have a chance?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know if we ever – I'm trying to think through games where I'm like, hey, this quarterback's a really good player, but he doesn't have the tools around him. I think some of it is just how do they match up with their skill positions outside. Mm-hmm. Think about Green Bay this past week, Green Bay's offense. They go into the game, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, the rookie's golden, right?
Yep.
And those guys all left the game. So if you're Matt LaFleur, where do you go with your script when your top three weapons are out of the game? I think that's more kind of where it gets to is what does this coach have? What does this quarterback have at his disposal versus what does he not have that they typically do?
You know, I want to ask you this because a lot of times people talk about scouting players. How often did you scout the opposing coordinator? Like, it's one thing to do that, but like, I believe everybody has a pet call. They have things that they get to, regardless of who they're playing or whatever. Like when they get to 20-yard line, this is their go-to call. Did you spend time also trying to scout the coordinator to have a feel for what he's thinking, what he tends to like in certain situations?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Kyle Shanahan was always that guy for us, right? So when I was a rookie, Shanahan was in Washington with his dad. And then I think he was there maybe a year or two when I was playing. And then in 2014, he was in Cleveland. And then in 15, he was 16, 17 maybe. He was in Atlanta. And then obviously he's been in San Francisco ever since. I don't know if that timeline's exactly correct, but I would always keep my notebooks. And so then when we'd go play the Shanahan-led offenses, I'd go back to that notebook like, hey, we're the same defense. We're going to probably play a lot of cover three. We're going to be an over front. We're going to play quarters in the high red zone. This is what we look like on third down. How did he attack us, from year to year to year? And there's a lot of similarities. And then guys like him always have stuff that's different, that's new, that he's set up over the year. He set up probably going years back, but that was a really good example for me of, hey, this is what Kyle looked like in 2012 as I was a rookie. And then we played him in, 2019, my last year when he was in San Francisco. And the overarching principles and the feel of that team felt very similar from year one, even though they had RG3 as a quarterback to, year 8, my last year with them in San Francisco. So that was one thing that I always looked at was how are they changing from year to year to year with the same coordinator?
Luke, we just get another couple minutes with you here, but the Denver Broncos defensively, we've talked a lot about them this year, just with how they've played and how they're on a historic pace in terms of rushing the quarterback. When you have a defense, when you've got fastballs like they do coming off the edge, and then you marry it up with the scheme there with Vance Joseph, where you don't know where they're coming from, it just seems like when you marrying up your scheme with your players, I think we've talked about this in a little bit earlier in this discussion, but just how important and vital it is to know what you have and how you marry those things together.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to ego of these coaches. Are you more concerned about highlighting your guys and putting them in position to have success, or are you more worried about what your defense looks like to everybody else? And I think Vance Joseph has a great feel for what they're good at, what his guys like to do. Those rushers are obviously really good. They've got good flexibility with those guys that they can move them around. And that was one thing that I think I was super fortunate with McDermott in Carolina is he always wanted us to do what we were most comfortable doing, regardless of maybe what he wanted to do on the defensive side of the ball. He would always come to us and say, hey, what do you like? What don't you like? And it had less to do with him and the scheme and what he thought was good. And he didn't want to be the mastermind behind everything. And it was more, how can I put my guys in position to have success? And how can I put my guys in position where they feel comfortable and they feel they can play really fast? I think that's kind of where Vance is with that defense in Denver. Obviously, the feel and the overarching structure of that defense is one thing. But when you have studs that can go, let's let those guys go do what they do best.
Look, if you could come back and just play for 1 year, but you could pick any defense, any defensive scheme to go play in, who would you want to play for and why?
I mean, it's easy for me. I love the Sean McDermott defense. That's what I grew up in. That's what I played. I've got a great feel for it. I understand it. I know where my stress is. I know where I have issues. I know where I can be aggressive. I know even watching, we played him, I don't know, it was 2 weeks ago. Watching that defense, it makes me smile because in the low red zone, they called a couple plays and I'm like, guys, I know exactly what this play call is. And that was what I would go back and play for that for a lot of reasons. Number one, I love Sean McDermott. Number two, the linebacker coach, Al Holcomb, was who coached me for a majority of my career in Carolina. Bobby Babich, the defensive coordinator, was in Carolina for a year or two, maybe when I was here. So I know that defense. I've got a lot of confidence in that defense. I know where to be. I know where to line up. I know where my eyes are. Al was a fantastic coach for me. So I think it's an easy one for me.
I got a quick follow-up because I'm curious because on paper, on the surface, it appears that they're not playing with like a bunch of A-level guys, but the unit plays really, really well. What is it about the scheme, or what is it about Sean that he can get a bunch of unheralded players to play at the level that they traditionally play at year after year?
I think they play extremely hard. I think they fly around. I think they hit. I think that they do a great job of coaching the guys that aren't the starters. In the event that guys get hurt, you plug another guy in and it just doesn't matter, and you've got guys that want to be there. You look at Jordan Poyer at the end of his career, he could be anywhere. He wants to be in Buffalo. And when they put him in the game, he understands that defense to the point where, hey, maybe physically I'm a little bit limited, but I know exactly where I got to be. I know where my stress is. I know where my help is, and he can go play fast. So I think Sean and Brandon being up there have done a really good job of finding guys that are going to play really hard, that are going to play really physical, and they do a great job of coaching the guys at the second and third level that allow them to have success if, Ed Oliver gets dinged or Rousseau's out or, Milano's out or Bernard's out, the linebackers. They can plug guys in and have zero drop off. And then when those guys get back to healthy again, they plug them right back in. So I think they take a lot of pride in coaching, not just the starters, but everybody else.
Yeah, all those guys played with tremendous effort, even as college players coming up too. So it's kind of in their DNA. Last one, I'm going to let you run here. The scouting side of things, which I know you're fully capable of doing. A lot of times when you're looking at young players, it's okay, what is he now? Strengths and weaknesses. Where does he need to get better to get where you want to go? So I'm going to ask you to give me a scouting report on your dog.
Oh my God. You know what? The scouting report on her is she is the best dog. Okay. But she likes being in the mix. She's mad that you guys didn't give her a camera to come talk to. She wants a microphone. She wants in on it. Maybe she was a little bit disappointed that I said Buffalo and not Carolina. So I think she's trying to voice her opinions. And now where's she at? She's laying down, facing away from me with this little bit of silence and not looking at me. So I got to go give her. Is she
coachable? Is she coachable?
Give her a TREAT.
Oh, I don't say that loud. Yeah.
But she's very coachable. She's a great dog. But you know what? She just wants to be in the mix, and she felt like she needed a microphone today.
Yeah, the TREAT. By the way, that's just a helmet sticker. That's all it is. That's good performance.
You know exactly what that is.
Dog a helmet sticker.
I said that she's going to show back right up over here. Get her to come on over.
What if I wonder if she could hear me say treat? Could she hear me say treat?
Oh, she just got up. She's walking over here now.
Uh-oh.
We got to pan that thing down. I'm backwards here. There she goes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You need a treat.
Look at her. Oh, you see her perk up?
Yep.
Yeah,
you got to get a treat. You got to get a treat.
She's going to run to the laundry room where we keep them all. And I better give her one from you and one from Bucky, and we'll call it.
It's fantastic. Hey, I've enjoyed talking to both of you, Luke. I appreciate that, man.
She's not so interested anymore. She's already left. We'll get a treat.
Hey, dude, you are the absolute best. You always carve out time for us, and we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Well, Buck, there he goes. Always generous, and always feel like I learned something. By the way, what are your thoughts on the new question getting in the mix there? I don't know. I guess the language, that's okay, right? You can say pissed off, but it is interesting. He gave a great answer. He talked about the attention to detail, the lack of focus, and the walkthroughs. I thought that was fascinating.
Well, what it lets you know is a little peek inside what your standards are. What your standards are, not only for yourself, but for the people that you're around. When Keuchly talks about that, he talks about the effort and attention to details. I mean, just think about it. He talked about it at a walkthrough. Just how everyone needs to have their antennas up and locked in and ready, because the things that we cover in this walkthrough are going to be the things that pop up in the game. And if you're not ready, locked in and focused, I'm going to be really upset at you if you mess this up in the game, because it's a thing that you can control. You can control your ability to focus and make sure that you take in all the information so you're ready to play your best on Sundays.
No doubt. Anyways, that was a fun conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we have. Would encourage you to check out the other episodes from earlier this week if you missed those. And we'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.